and be proud of the color of their skin from where they
Pastor Stephen Vaughn, Kavana Karaki, Dr. Stephen Parry.
First, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to have these moments to speak. My name is Pastor Stephen Vaughn. I'm from Middletown, Connecticut. I represent the Middletown Ministerial Alliance. I also pastor a church and also have been a businessman for the past 35 years. I'm going to start with a quote that I've been believing in all my life, and I've been a part of. Some of you may have heard of Rotary. One of the 4 tenets of Rotary is the truth. Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all? When I think of Capital Prep, I think of an opportunity where people that have been disadvantaged, disenfranchised, can see themselves being successful. When you have a model, when you have a role model in front of you, it gives you a better path to see where you're going because you see that it's possible. That's why we have role models. And I've always been taught that purpose is more important than the instrument. What do I mean by that? Is when you think of in business, we always say the customer is the center of everything we do. And organizations, the purpose is the center of everything we do. And with teachers, as important as they are, and we appreciate their role in the community, like first responders, like our police, like all the people who serve our community, they are important, but they're not more important than the purpose. The purpose is the students. What is going to help our students become better, become stronger? If the school has demonstrated, which is clear, it's been spoken about previously, if the school has demonstrated its success and the students are willing and there's a need, there's a volume of people that are trying to get into these schools, why would we hinder them from going forward? I think it's important that the school board would continue to remember that this was approved, this was agreed upon, and for some reason, we have allowed education to become political, which never should be. Education is moral. It's what we're supposed to do. So I would encourage you to really consider the purpose, the student. If we're concerned about safety, if we're concerned about building our communities, making our environment better, these are the instruments, the students that are coming up in front of us that prove that we, by reserving them, can bring them. And just a statement from our president of the Middletown Ministerial Alliance, he is also in very much support. His name is Bishop William McKissick, and he plans to do everything we can collectively to support this great agenda. And I thank you so much for allowing me to have this time.
All right. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kawana, and I'm a senior at Capital Preparatory Harbor in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I've been at Capital Prep for 5 years now, and truth be told, I came here today with a speech prepared to give to you, and I said, I'm not going to speak about myself because that would be selfish. I'm going to speak about the people in Middletown that deserve this opportunity. But for you to know what they deserve, you have to hear what I have, what Capital Prep gave me, what I've gained this past 5 years. So I can't speak for anyone else but myself, so that's what I'm going to do. I have experienced a lot these last 5 years, and I've gained a lot. I've gained information about myself, that I've never known from teachers, illuminators, from being Perry. I've gained a full ride to college. I have gained a 4.4 GPA. I have gained trips to colleges and universities for free. I have gained 30 credits, 20 plus college credits while still in high school, which is not something that every high school student in Connecticut has. I bet that if I go over to our schools in Bridgeport, Connecticut, I bet that if I go over to Central, if I go to Harding, if I go to Bassett, they don't have what we have. And that's just the truth. So my question to you is, why can't Middletown have that? Why are the kids of Middletown, many of whom are from parents sitting here today, why can they not have a full ride? Why can they not have 4 whatever GPAs? Why can they not have free trips to colleges and universities, which are things that they deserve? And you might think, well, she's an exception. She's sitting here in front of us, but I'm not the exception. I have 48 other students in my class who also have everything that I have. We all have scholarships. We all have college credits from Post University, from UConn, from Housatonic Community College. So no, I'm not the exception. Capital Preparatory Harvard shouldn't be the exception, and Middletown should also have this amazing opportunity that I do today. Thank you.
Now I gotta follow that. All right, cool. Let's get this party started. I'm Dr. Steve Perry. I live at 782 Ocean Avenue in West Haven, Connecticut. It's cool to be here in a library. We don't have a library at our school, but that's cool. 100% of our kids have already been accepted to four-year colleges, so give it up for them. But it's also cool here to be in a library. One of my favorite short stories is Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. It's a powerful story if you haven't heard it. It's one about knowing that you've done the wrong thing. And even if you get away with it, thump, 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 plays deep in your subconsciousness. And so what I'm asking you for today is the opportunity to be heard. I'm asking you to truly give us the opportunity to present our case. And if you were to do so, I think one of the things you'd find out is that we haven't been taken out of the budget. It wasn't that at all. In fact, it was something far more pedestrian. The commissioner just was not aware of the clause in the law. She would tell you that if she was sitting here, that she and I had a conversation on December 10th, 2024. I called her and I said, hey, I'm not sure if you noticed, but y'all broke the law. She said, I've never seen that before. I said, well, that's fine. But see, if you give us a time after this to have an actual conversation about this, we can go through. We're not actually asking for the school. We've actually already been approved. And if you were to do that, then also what you might do is you might recognize that some errand comment from a former state legislator can't possibly be the reason why you keep denying schools, knowing that that's not what the law says. And you might even ask the question of your own attorney. You may say to him during that time, what role did you play in writing the letter that came from the governor? Because if in fact you had any role and you didn't cite that in this space, then at least in an academic setting, that would be problematic. We have words when you don't cite your work or cite the work. In addition to that, what you might also, if we were allowed to speak a little later on, just while you call us up, because we recognize you buried us deep into the agenda, what you might also find is that the same person who may have written that letter may have also written a declaratory ruling, which of course, that which comes from a rotten root can't produce fruit. So here we are. Who would stand in the way of this? Who would do such a thing? How do you explain to them when the law clearly states that the State Board of Education shall determine which school is funded first, period, end of story? That's y'all. So to that end, all I'm asking you for today, that's all we're asking for, is call us back up here. Give us the opportunity to have this conversation for real and for true. Let's put this out in front of everybody. It's already gaining public and national attention. How do you deny the school that became the #1 applicant? How do you do that? Here's the final part about the telltale heart that I find really interesting. It's not that the cops caught him. He told on himself. When you know you've done something wrong, that thump thump is in your head. I ask you, on behalf of the children and families here who've taken time off of work, driven from as far away as Danbury and further, to again beg you for a school that they all earned. All of them. Let us be heard. Let us be heard. Thump, thump. Thank you.
Thomas Reyes, Steve Tracy, Amy Abbas. Thomas Reyes, Steve Tracy, Amy Abbas.
Good evening, parents, kids, students, illuminators, and the board. My name is Amy. I'm in the 6th grade, 11 years old, and I've been here since kindergarten. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. I may be young, but I understand something very important. Education is not just school, it's a place where dreams begin. Have you ever imagined a place where every child's potential is nurtured? That's exactly what Capital Prep does. I think it should allow us to open the Capital Prep in Middletown because parents want their children to have a very good education. Parents want their children to have the best chance to succeed, and so do we. Capital Prep helps with academic excellence and personal growth, a nurturing environment that inspires curiosity, and a community where values are instilled. When I first came here, I was a little nervous to go to school, but then my illuminators or teachers taught me that my voice is heard, and every child deserves that. I wasn't used to it, but look at me now. I'm in student government, done a lot of new things, and have a way better self-esteem. Right now, a lot of us have to travel far just to get to class. You could give us a school, one that's close, safe, and one that gives us the tools to grow up and become something great. So I'm asking you, open a new school, not just for me, but for every child who wants to learn, laugh, and lead right in their own community. We believe in a bold approach where academics, arts, and sports go hand in hand to develop well-rounded individuals. Let's build a school that shapes not just minds, but future. Middletown needs it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Tomas Reyes. I'm Executive Director with Lead for Strategic Initiatives. I'm a resident of Sandy Hook. Chair and members of the board, thank you for hearing us today. The executive branch and the State Board of Education have the power to fix the injustices that led us to being still waiting for a school to be funded. I urge you to do that and do what the students deserve, given a fair chance. I've mentored elementary students in Texas, taught junior achievement in Danbury for a decade. I mentor community college students to persist to a 4-year degree. And I've watched students flourish when adults show up with consistency and love. And that's what the Danbury Charter School leaders are offering. They're coming in prepared. They're bringing facilities that have language and project-based learning, service, athletics, and arts. These are partners who elevate the city. And let's meet their gift with respect. They're bringing something to make our city better, make our students succeed. And align their approval with funding so the Danbury children don't have to wait another year. If you look at what happened during COVID, we still haven't recovered. The children that missed the early attending in person they still haven't fully recovered. And so it takes time to build a foundation. It takes time to undo the damage. So I hope that we are able to allow the school to be helping and contribute in the city of Danbury. Your charge is to ensure a high quality public education. And in Danbury, the majority, especially English learners and high needs students, are not meeting the standards. Approval without timely funding is a broken promise that deepens inequity. The executive branch and the Board of Education have the power to fix this injustice. I urge you to do what the students deserve and give them a fair chance. We support the RFP process to vet quality. Danbury earned the approval in 2018 and followed the rules. But after approval, years of funding lag forced ready schools and higher staff to sit idle while students lost time they cannot get back. Competitive grants and pilots cannot replace stable and full funded improving models. The facility is built, the launch plant is ready, and following the incubation, a building will be donated as a lasting public infrastructure, so seats can be created very quickly. Families in Danbury have no public charter school option today, so if you align the approval with the appropriations, and the school can open on schedule and serve the students who need it most. So nearly 7 years later, the cost of waiting is learning lost and opportunity denied. So again, the executive branch has the power with the State Board of Education to do what is right for the students of Danbury. So I urge you to do what you can to get it done. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the board, Commissioner, Steve Tracy, 203 Ivy Mountain Road in Goshen. I chair the planning team for the Danbury Charter School. And ever since this board approved our application back in 2018, families eager to enroll their students with us have been asking, why isn't the school open? What distinguishes Danbury from all the other cities in the state where public charter schools have functioned successfully for years, for decades, including some that have been funded and brought online even since your initial approval of us? We feature the highly acclaimed International Baccalaureate program, so it can't be our curriculum. We've partnered with John Taylor and Elevate Charter Schools. Mr. Taylor has a track record of creating public schools of choice for diverse populations of kids and getting results. So it can't be about leadership. Some say the Danbury schools cannot afford to pay for our school. But you know that school districts don't fund the operating costs of charter schools. The state does. So it can't be about money. We have committed to match or exceed the teacher compensation offered by the Danbury public school system. And by law, charter school teachers are entitled to the same retirement and collective bargaining rights as any other public school teacher. So it's not about doing right by teachers. We have a fully equipped facility ready for students, been that way for months. So it's not about readiness. If we are oversubscribed, as I suspect we will be, we've asked the Danbury Public Schools to conduct the lottery that will pick our students. So it's not about cherry picking. And thanks to a generous philanthropic pledge, we're ready to build a brand new public school for 700 kids in downtown Danbury at no cost to the school system or the local taxpayer. So having addressed all of the rational objections that one could raise about our school, that what we're facing here is the ideological stubbornness of a handful of politicians who can't imagine families being able to go outside the established system to find the best school for their kids. And what's ironic is that some of these folks fashion themselves as progressives. But I'll tell you this, when it comes to families who are asking nothing, and particularly low-income families, who are asking nothing but the opportunity to pick a public school that they think will give their children the best shot at the American dream, there is nothing progressive about standing in their way. We believe this board has the authority to right that wrong We've played by the rules. Our cause is just, and these families back here have waited long enough. Thank you.
Brianna Javier, Els Diallo, and Yulissa Obuknor. Brianna Javier, Elisad Diallo, Yulissa Obuknor.
Good evening. My name is Alaj Diallo and I am in the 6th grade and attend Capital Prep Harbor School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. First, I want to thank the board members for allowing me to speak today by attending a school in Bridgeport, Connecticut. At Capital Prep, I know that a school like this can help Connecticut grow. And I think people in Middletown deserve a Capital Prep in this type of education. I also know that more towns in Connecticut should be able to have a college-oriented school that can help them change the world. For example, opening a school in Middletown can help impact massive growth and shape who we help children become better. This can really impact education and how we show respect and who we really are. Capital Prep School shows massive growth, increasing knowledge and college-oriented knowledge. It's not just Middletown that we want to open a school. We want to open more schools in other towns in Connecticut. They should have better education and beneficial knowledge, which would allow the community to have massive growth in education to help students graduate. This opening could help students have better jobs, being a better leader, and having bravery. We believe that collaboration, problem solving, empathy, and knowledge should all be represented by all students. This can open the door to success. It doesn't matter what race, region, or religion you are. We are all accepted. Thank you for listening and having me here.
Members of the State Board of Education. My name is Yuosa Okumbor, and I am from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I want to quickly thank you all for allowing me to speak up here today about opening a new Capital Prep in Middletown. I am a Capital Prep student myself, and I can confidently say that Capital Prep has benefited me over the years I have attended. This will help This will help Middletown orient kids to college and prepare kids for the future. Why not spread this great school to underprovided kids in Middletown and change their lives? We should open this school and more Capital Prep schools, not just for Bridgeport and Connecticut, but all around the U.S. So please open this Capital Prep school so kids in Middletown can change their lives for the better.
Good evening. My name is Brianna and I'm in the 7th grade and I'm from Capital Prep Harbor Upper School. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today, and I'm speaking in strong support of funding Capital Prep Middletown Charter School. I've been a student at Capital Prep for 8 years and I currently serve in student government as prefect. Being part of Capital Prep has shaped me as a student and as a leader. Through my 8 years here, I've experienced firsthand how our school challenges us academically, but also teaches us leadership, service, and responsibility. In student government, I've been able to advocate for my peers and help create a stronger school culture. These experiences have given me a voice and allowed students in Middletown to have the same opportunities I had. Funding Capital Prep Middletown would mean more families, more scholars, and more leaders being built right here in our community. When I first got to Capital Prep Lower School, I didn't know English, but with Capital Prep resources and programs, I was mastering every skill by the end of the year. I ask you today to approve the funding of Capital Prep Middletown Charter School. Our community needs it, and students like me are proof of the difference it can make. Please give more parents and scholars the chance to benefit from this education and leadership experience. Thank you.
Amari Martindale, Tomas Reyes, Reverend Grace Reyes. Amari Martindale, Reverend Grace Reyes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amari, and I'm a senior coming from the Upper Harbor School of Capital Prep. First and foremost, I would like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you all on a topic that is clearly not only dear to me, but a plethora of us in this room. Today, I'm speaking in not only the best interest of people in this room, but for any prospective student who wishes to join our vast C-Prep family, as I stand here to advocate for a Capital Prep in Middletown. I was welcomed to the C-Prep family with open arms in my sophomore year of high school, coming all the way from a boarding school in Massachusetts. It was with these 3 ongoing years, I can positively say that this school changed my life for the best. When I first entered Capital Prep, I was honestly nothing more than a nervous wreck, to say the least. I wanted nothing to do with any social activity and honestly had no clear direction in my academics. But here at Capital Prep, I truly discovered my voice and sense of self. I became deeply embedded in a rich community full of lively people with different views and perspectives. And yet we're all united by the same goal, to pursue a 4-year education after high school. This school goes beyond academics. It's a network of illuminators and peers who invest your potential before you even see it in yourself. Capital Prep didn't just prepare me for college like every other high school. It taught me how to open doors, not only for me. As an advocate for change, demonstrated as I went from that nervous wreck to a head of the student body here. Bringing a Capital Prep to Middletown is just about opening another school. It's about giving these Black and brown kids in Middletown an opportunity to discover the same guidance, transformation, and community I had. I thank you all for giving me the chance to speak on this topic today. I hope you all consider it.
To the members of the State Board of Education. My name is Tomas Reyes, and I live in Oxford, Connecticut. And I just want to say briefly, I don't want to repeat what others have said, but I ask myself the same question. Why is it that a project, and I'm specifically referring to the Danbury Charter School project, a project that was approved years ago, 7 years ago. Why is it still not funded? Does somebody have any answer to that? In 2018, Danbury earned the highest evaluation score after a lot of hard work, following all the rules. And as we all know, the school is not funded yet, 7 years later. Danbury has been waiting 7 years, since 2018. Children don't get those years back. Those years are gone. Their families don't get them back either. Charter schools are state schools approved and governed by the state board. They remain under the oversight of the State Board of Education. These are your schools, and we are here to plead with you that you vote to protect us and have our backs, and not allow any random politician to use us for political reasons. The current practice of funding schools behind the budget is not transparent and just basically wrong. That's not the way it should be done. As a former president of New Haven's Board of Alders, I know the inherent difficulty of not navigating budgets, especially in this national era. We don't want to get into that. Let us have the foresight and courage to see that these delays fall hardest on a predominantly Latino, immigrant, working class community. The ultimate effect is discriminatory. Years of testimonies, marches, signups, and partner support show ample readiness. And still, we've been ignored. All of this results in Danbury having 0 public charter schools today. Families lack any public charter option.
If you would please. Please.
I'm almost done. The SBA can vote today to fix a broken system and undo past injustice. We ask board members to have the courage to do what is right and protect the schools you manage. I thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, members of the State Board of Education. It's a pleasure to be here to represent the interests of the charter school in Danbury. I am Reverend Grace Reyes, and I live on Autumn Ridge Road in Oxford, Connecticut. My birth city is Danbury, Connecticut. So I can speak from a place that has experienced what I felt was an equal education when I was growing up. So I come here and I am addressing the 7 years that have passed, that won't be retroactive. He wrote his speech and I wrote mine separately, believe it or not. But we come from the same mindset. And at the risk of sounding as if we wrote it together, I think it's important that I read mine because we were in separate rooms at the time, but we share the same heart for the city. It says that those 7 years will not be retroactive. These children will not be able to sit in those seats that have been emptied by nobody knows why. Nobody even knows why, because everything that the charter school board was supposed to do and did in a timely manner and worked so hard to achieve has stalled. And that's exactly why we're here today. We're here to ask you, why is it still stalled? Why are the children not benefiting from this school? And why do we have to come here and seemingly feel as if we were begging for something that we use our tax dollars to support? So that's the question I have to pose to you today. With the utmost of respect, I am a product of the Danbury school system. I am very fortunate that at the time that I was being educated, they gave me special considerations, because when I graduated from Danbury High School in 1977, and I know I am aging myself, I was going on to college. I went to live in Europe for 18 years. And I competed in a marketplace of a European nature. So I can tell you that education, no matter where you come from, whether you're from Puerto Rico or whether you're from immigrant backgrounds, if you give us the opportunity, if you give us the same opportunity to learn, to be able to stand and be prideful of what we have achieved, this is the articulation that you will confront. This is the type of person that you will be very happy to have in your neighborhoods. So thank you for the time. I wish that you will understand that the reason why I come here is I stand in the gap. I stand in the gap because I'm grateful for the education that I did receive. These children deserve it. These working families that work hard to give their children the opportunity at a better future should be heard, and they should be respected. I thank you for your time today.
Keandra Smith, Issa Latour, Sam Abraham. Keandra Smith, Issa Latour, Sam Abraham.
Hello. My name is Issa Latour. I am in sixth grade. I am here today to represent Capital Prep and all other charter schools. I want to encourage you to open a new Capital Prep in Middletown. You might be asking, why is it so important to open a new Capital Prep in Middletown? Right now, many children don't have the same opportunities like us when it comes to education. In fact, in order to attend a school like Capital Prep, students have to win a lottery. Imagine that's your education is depending on luck instead of choice. That is why we need more options for family and students who want the best chance to succeed. Capital Prep is not just another school. It is a community that believes in every child, especially the children who are forgotten. At Capital Prep, teachers and staff push us to do our very best and to make sure that we know our future matters. That's why 100% of Capital Prep graduates go on to four-year colleges. By opening a Capital Prep in Middletown, more students will have the chance to work hard, to dream big, and to prepare for college and life. We don't want to leave any child behind, and we don't want education to be about luck. If Capital Prep gave me the courage to stand up here and give my speech, I am confident that you could help us open another Capital Prep in Middletown. Our illuminators and deans want every student to have a real chance, so give Capital Prep that chance. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. My name is Keandra Smith, and I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I currently attend Capital Prep. I am in the sixth grade, and I'm speaking for the right for every kid to get a good education. I'm also speaking today in support of opening Capital Prep Harbor in Middletown. The school was approved in 2023, so let's give parents, scholars, and the community what they deserve. My experience in Capital Prep has severely impacted the way I see the world and how to be a problem solver and an empathetic citizen. I'm passionate about doing good in life and excelling in everything that I do. My question to you is, will you open Capital Prep Middletown Charter School? Everyone needs a good education, and so do the people of Middletown. Thank you for having me today.
Hello, my name is Samuel, and I'm currently a senior at Capital Preparatory Harbor Upper School. First and foremost, I would like to thank everyone here and for all the board members to take the time to hear my speech today. Capital Prep is a building legacy of excellence, and we continue to strive and overcome challenges in all different aspects of life, but not just through success, but through commitment and passion, because that's what Capital Prep is about. But I'm not here to talk about how many seniors have been accepted to our four-year colleges or two-year colleges and universities, or how many of our students have scored above grade level testing on state tests. While those achievements are impressive, yet meaningful, they also don't fully capture what Capital Prep is about. Since I first walked through these doors in 2018, I've experienced growth both in academics, socially, personally. Capital Prep has helped me discover confidence, perseverance, and purpose through different challenges. I've learned how to rise, lead, and become a better version of myself. But I've also learned that I have represented something bigger than myself. As a school community, Capital Prep represents agents of change. Change is that important word. As a school community, we use collaborating, problem solving, researching, empathetic citizen, and pillar of knowledge skills to conquer and come up with solutions that address specific problems in our communities, but also pushes us to move forward and build a community that can follow for us and use a voice to make real change, especially for particular communities that don't have the voice for themselves, so then we can help them become that voice for them. But the power as well we together and focus on what's important. Capital ultimately is to provide students that come from disadvantaged backgrounds with the opportunity to pursue an education, with the tools given to succeed in college and career. Through Capital Prep's unwavering support, has helped me earn a 4.46 GPA while having 38 college credits. And I hope to graduate from Capital Prep with a full-ride scholarship. But taking time to invest in ourselves and our community is the most important factor when it comes to agents of change. Again, change. Capital Prep has taught me right from the start. I used to think that unity was a weakness, that I didn't really need to rely or rely on anybody else or other teachers. But once I got here, my mindset shifted when learning outside and outside the community. The true mission of Capital Prep, or what I think, is community empowerment, engaging with others and rising together so that we can become the best version of ourselves in the classroom and inside our communities. Through every challenge, I've learned how to rise, lead, and become a better version of myself, investing all of ourselves and investing in all of our communities. In closing, I believe that funding for Capital Prep Middletown should be granted and that it should be afforded to other students here in Middletown so that they can have the opportunities like Capital Prep Harbor Preparatory School has had. Thank you.
Nagame Jones, Dianaris Sanchez, Maria Matos.
I wonder how many we've gone through.
20.
That's it?
5. 3 at a time. 10 shifts. Maybe more.
You can go ahead. Start.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Najim, and I'm a senior at Capital Prep Harbor, and I'm here today to advocate for change, one that a Capital Prep Middletown can bring to this community. I was empowered to make a change at Capital Prep. I was pushed by our social worker, Ms. James, to run for student government within only my first few weeks as a new transfer. In this application process, Capital Prep received the highest score in the charter application, but yet their school has not been funded, doing our potential Middletown scholars a grave injustice. Being a member of student government, I am not only asked to use my voice at Harbor, but also be encouraged to advocate for change throughout the community of Connecticut. Our board, our illuminators, and our CPREP families want our scholars to achieve excellence and be models of our CPREP learner expectations. Middletown needs collaborators that can work together in order to improve and enhance their environments. They need problem solvers and researchers to make educated choices to overcome adversities and obstacles. Empathetic citizens are crucial in such a harsh world, with pillars of knowledge to strengthen the tightly knit relationships formed at Capital Prep. Whether it gives your scholars the courage to run for student council or use their voice to stand firm in what they believe in, Capital Prep fosters children who are willing to change the future, the change that Middletown needs. Funding this school means nurturing this. It allows scholars to have a definite path to college and teachers who care about their well-being as they mature as adolescents. Board, I humbly sit before you today and ask for your hand in partnership and for your support. I thank you in advance for your understanding and consideration. Middletown needs upliftment, with a Capital Prep being one step closer to that. This school will give them the same opportunities and education that are extended to me and my peers. And this will stabilize our path to success. Thank you for your attention and your time.
I'm the only one that can notice how these kids can read. Connecticut has a problem with reading, but they can read. This is good, and that's they're product of a charter school, and that's all we're asking here. So good evening, members of the State Board of Education. My name is Maria Matos, and I'm the Vice President and Chief Programs Officer of LEAD. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of thousands of parents, educators, and community leaders who have stood behind one simple belief: that every child in Connecticut deserves access to a great public education, no matter the zip code. The Danbury Charter School was approved in 2018 and has now waited seven years for funding, an entire childhood for many students who were supposed to walk through those doors. Those years cannot be replaced. They're lost. In 2018, Danbury's application earned the highest evaluation score statewide. It met every standard, followed every process, and earned the trust of families, community partners, and educators. Yet, despite that, the school remains remains unfunded, leaving Danbury as the largest contingency city in Connecticut without a charter school and without a public option that reflects
Ralia Guzman.
Good evening. I should say good afternoon. I'll pretty much I wrote my speech, so I will gonna go over it real quick. My name is Julie Miliano, and I stand before you today as a proud member of the Danbury community, as a parent, as an advocate, and also as an equitable access, asking for equitable access to education. Danbury is a growing city with a diverse population, yet our students continue to face overcrowded classrooms and limited educational options. Family deserves choices that reflect their children's needs, learning styles, and aspirations. The Danbury Charter Schools represents hope for many of us. It offers an opportunity to reimagine education, one that values innovation, family engagement, and academic excellence. This isn't about competition, it's about collaboration and ensuring that every student, regardless of the background, has the chance to thrive. I urge you to listen to the voices of our community, the parents who are asking for more support, the students who are eager to learn in an environment designed to help them to succeed. Please let them to make the Danbury Charter School a reality. Let's invest in our children's future today. Thank you for your time and thank you for your commitment in education here in Denver and the state of Connecticut.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Braulio Guzman. I'm a resident of Danbury. For 7 years, our children have waited while the system failed them, overcrowded classrooms, make it near impossible to give the students the attention that they need. Funding behind the budget is wrong, not transparent, and unacceptable.
Could you just move a little closer to the microphone, please? Yeah, I think it's your phone that's making the microphone.
I see. That our school is not funded yet. Charter school are state schools governed by the SBE. This is your responsibility to ensure the families are not used as by politicians. Danbury has 0 charter schools and family need options. A building and lounge plan are ready. Equity and fairness demand action. Delays have fallen harder on immigrant and working class families who deserve the same opportunities as every other child in Connecticut. Board members, we ask you to have the courage to do what is right today, but to the end of the injustice, protect our schools and support our students. And I'm going to add a little bit from the bottom of my heart. We have to save the next generation. In this past 7 years, if you can only see how many bars they open in Danbury and how many liquor licenses they approve. And we've been waiting for 7 years for our school. We have rights. We have the right to educate our children. And we deserve your time, your support, and please support our children. Thank you.
Zania Plinio, Juan Penez, Lucas Pimalto.
You can go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. My name is Lucas Pimentel. I'm the CEO of LEAD. I know you're going to hear a lot of speeches and a lot of written speeches, but I really love to come here and just talk from the heart. I am a product of Danbury. I came here as an immigrant when I was 12 years old, and I was in a high school with almost 4,000 students. Nobody knew who I was, and I barely survived. I'm here by the grace of God. Once I became a teacher, because I said, I'm going to be in that school and I'm going to help my community, I couldn't get a job in my own city. So these are lived experiences. So many times they say, well, that's not me, so that's not my problem. And for 23 years, I taught in Bridgeport at a charter school. I was an administrator, I was a teacher, saving hundreds and hundreds of students where you got to know them, you got to have that small environment. And that's where I learned the value of a small school like Bridge Academy where I worked. Again, from 1996 to 2019, I was there in the trenches helping and working. And I realized, I'm going to give up in my own town. And you could imagine 23 years waking up and driving an hour away and say, is this fair? Not only me and about 12 other Latino friends had to teach somewhere else. And these things happen. And I know sometimes we're in other cities and we're like, well, not in my city. But remember, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. We cannot just forget about Danbury and what's happening there and say, well, not there. The representatives there doesn't want it, so that's nobody's problem. But it is. And that's what I want to come to you today and really tug at your heart. Talk to your humanity. There's no way that you can say, this is okay. It's okay for someone not to want to fund a school and leave it without funding for 7 years. But that hurts people. I was supposed to be retired. I ended up becoming and creating an organization and doing all of this because I said, I can't leave, and I had it all set. 2 more years to qualify for my early retirement. I left all of that. And I left all of that because deep in my heart, this is wrong. And I said, until one day, this city has something that I never had, a home base for those leaders, for those people that are disenfranchised. So what I'm going to you today is at the core of this issue. And the core of the issue is that we're saying, okay, SBE approves charter schools. The legislature funds them. We're done.
But that's not necessarily the entire case. These are your schools. These are your schools. Nobody else is approving the schools, managing the schools. This is your community. It's the State Board of Education school. These are your schools. And something happened in 2015 with malice that created this. And we used to have governors in the past that say, oh, no, 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 no. This is my branch, the executive branch. You're going to fund my schools. You remember those days. But now we need your leadership. We need you today to say, yeah, there's a recommendation right there. What an easy way. On October 3rd, I was there. We testified. We were happy when you approved our school. So now what we want to say, please, fix this injustice. Find a way for us to be able to move on. I know it's tough, but we are asking for your leadership. We are asking for that courage. Thank you. Oh, I'll translate.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Sonia Celsa Paulina Gramonte. Estoy aquí para apoyar la escuela Charter School.
So I'm here to support the charter school in Denver.
Es un honor para mí estar en esta sección, porque estoy segura de que de aquí va a salir lo que esperamos de ustedes.
It's an honor for me to be here because I know today you will make a decision that will be.
Buscar respuesta del por qué. Si ustedes aprobaron este proyecto de la Charter School, a la fecha no se ha concretado esa decisión dada por ustedes, no se ha respetado, no se ha honrado esa decisión.
I'm also here to see why you haven't followed your own guidelines and why you haven't respected that decision and why you have left the school unfunded.
Cuando una persona, una institución da una palabra, honra sus compromisos. De lo contrario, da un por qué no lo han honrado. Y nosotros todavía en Danbury no sabemos el por qué. Esa escuela, aún teniendo el local, los recursos, no han abierto la escuela para los niños que necesitan esa educación, porque es una educación superior a la que la escuela de Danbury tienen.
When an institution does not follow its own bylaws, when an institution leaves a school without funding, a school that has a building, a school that has everything ready, we are here to ask why. Why are this community being ignored when it is your responsibility and it is in your bylaws?
Los niños de Danbury no tienen opción de escoger cuál escuela van a ir. Las escuelas de Danbury están súper pobladas. No hay un control de que los niños tengan una educación más personalizada de los profesores por la sobrepoblación.
So Danbury has a massive problem with overcrowding. And the students in Danbury and parents have no choice. Danbury doesn't have a single charter school, a single educational choice. And that is something that is needed. Some parents need a smaller environment and a more tailored education for their children.
Danbury es el único de los pueblos de Connecticut que no tiene una escuela charter school. Pero no obstante eso, en la escuela de Danbury hay mucha violencia por la sobrepoblación, el agrandamiento, la falta de seguimiento de los estudiantes. Esta escuela viene a dar un aliento, una esperanza a los padres que queremos que nuestros hijos tengan un feliz término en la educación. Por favor, den la respuesta a Danbury porque la necesitamos.
So Danbury has no educational options, which has led to severe overcrowding, massive schools with sometimes there's violence of all forms with the immigrant community that is suffering. And we need to have this educational option. We need to be able to have parents and students have something that they can feel is their own. And this is something that we're here to make sure that we get from the board.
Thank you. Can you state her name, please, for the record?
Sonia Iselsa Paulino Gramonte.
We need to wrap it up.
Yo, perdón,
Okay, I got wrapped.
que termine. Okay. Danbury paga impuestos, igual que todos los pueblos de Connecticut. Mas, sin embargo, es la única que no tiene una escuela charter school. Considero personalmente que es una discriminación y es una falta de derecho a Danbury para los niños. Es cuanto. Muchas gracias.
So Danbury pays a lot of taxes, and we don't have a single charter school that can get some of those funds back. And we believe that this is sometimes a form of discrimination against this community in Danbury, and that we really need to make sure that today you vote to open the charter school.
the one they open the school, the door for new school. I have seen you in my eyes with a shadow school work. Give families real choice, strong teachers, and a school that listen parents. That experience convinced in that very with also success with shadow school. And respecting asking for you fund this school because every child deserves the same choice my child own has. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ramona Santelices. I am the president of the Dominican American Coalition of Connecticut. For many years, I have worked with families in Danbury. And one thing I have learned is how deeply schools can transform life. Parents trust school not only to teach, but also to guide, protect, and inspire their children. That requires educators who understand our families, value our culture, and have the support and resources to do their jobs well. The Danbury Charter School was approved in 2018, yet it has not been given the funding to open its doors. Today, we are not asking for approval. We are asking for the resources to finally make this vision a reality. This school represents an opportunity to create a small classrooms, build a team that reflects the diversity of our community, and offer every child the personal attention they deserve. I respectfully ask that you provide the necessary funding so this school can open and begin serving the families who have waited for years. Our children deserve this chance. Thank you.
Mel Baptista, Adriana Mohammed, Jonathan Soto. You can start.
Good evening, board members. I first want to thank you all for allowing me to speak here tonight. My name is Adriana. I'm the ninth grade representing Capital Prep and student government as a 910 prefect. Today, I'm here to speak on what makes Capital Prep an exceptional, valuable addition to Middletown. As someone who has been in Capital Prep since the sixth grade, I've seen firsthand how this school changes lives. I would know because Capital Prep has changed my own. I have been in over 3 schools and have never been as academically challenged as I have been in Capital Prep. Every single scholar that graduates from Capital Prep has the security of a 4-year college education. As of right now, I and many others attending Capital Prep have opportunities for college courses and future scholarships. With its consistently high test scores, Capital Prep proves that success isn't just a goal, it's a standard. The school provides a safe, welcoming, and supportive environment that I am able to lead and strive for excellence in everything that I do. Every single scholar that has graduated and every single scholar that attends that Capital Prep has been able to do the same. I've experienced the positive impact of illuminators who truly care, a student body that uplifts each other, and a school that motivates you every single day to aim higher. What makes Capital Prep truly unique is its foundation built on social justice, teaching us not only how to succeed, but how we can use our own voices to create change. Scholars are given opportunity to take real college-level courses, preparing us for early and higher education. In addition, students that are interested in fields like medicine can get hands-on experience that most high school scholars don't get the opportunity to get, and giving us a head start on our careers and passions. Bringing Capital Prep to Middletown will open these life-changing opportunities to more students. And creating a more stronger and empowered community. Capital Prep isn't just preparing students for college, it's preparing us to lead that future. So if you believe in that future or even want to be part of the new generation of scholars, support the funding for Capital
Good evening, dear members of the Education Committee. Here, representing the Dominican American Coalition of Connecticut. In my work with families and family, I often hear the same worries. Parents tell me thousands are to at the same time, they are afraid of the high cost of building new schools that fall on taxpayers. Families simply want school where the children learn well and have a fair chance, chance to succeed. The Danbury Charter School can help with space for hundreds of students without raising costs for the city. It means smaller classrooms, support for bilingual students, and better opportunities for young people to graduate ready for the future. And this while also giving relief for families who already carry so much. I ask you, with respect, to support this school for the children, for the parents, and for the future of Denver.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bill Batista. I have lived in Denver 21 years. I'm a mother of two children. I'm also a voice of thousands of Brazilians who have been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. We are asking to open the child school in Denver. Please, your children deserve more options and better future. In this school, we bring exact. Please help us. Please open the child school in Denver.
Chelsea, Karunwal, Lauren, Coster, John Taylor.
Good afternoon. I'm representing my mom. She's never good in English, I was trying to. Good afternoon, everyone. Mom, Delphi Jacqueline. Message this. I'm a student, and today I just want to say that as a student, we need the opportunity for better education for school at Emory. I just found out that best education in opportunity was one that should not refuse creativity, freedom of doing freedom of intellectual. Because I believe that children should do their actions by themselves with responsibility without interference of administration. Because we want young people all the way from kindergarten to last by their own way without by interference or anything. We want a future for them. I want the kids to do whatever they want. I want them to have their own responsibility. Because these elections, there's no democracy. Without no democracy, there will be no freedom. Without no freedom, there will be no rights. There was no rights, there will be no more.
Thank you.
Good evening.
evening. I'm Lauren Coster, Managing Attorney at Nonprofits Council, 320 Boston Post Road. I represent Danbury Charter School Planning Team and Elevate Charter Schools, and also a former New Haven Public Schools teacher and resident. My clients and I respectfully disagree with the recommendation of the Division of Governmental Affairs and urge you to vote in favor of the declaratory ruling submitted by Capital Prep and supported by my clients. The state budget process requires collaboration between the executive and legislative branches. The General Assembly appropriates funds, the governor provides approval, and then the governor and executive agencies report to the General Assembly on their expenditures. CSDE receives funds from the General Assembly for all education appropriations, each under 5-digit appropriations codes, one of which is reserved simply for charter schools. When charter schools emerged in Connecticut in 1996, the state board granted charters based on available CSDE education appropriations. In 2007, however, the General Assembly clarified this process. If the state board had approved and were ready to fund multiple schools, then the state board would determine which school to fund first. CSD's extensive rubric could be used to prioritize openings based on those scores. Since 2017, instead of a state board approved charter automatically going into effect, the General Assembly first needed to appropriate funds for the purposes of providing grants to open new charter schools. Those funds are appropriated directly to CSDE, not to the schools or their nonprofit operators, but to the executive agency that spends money from the legislature on education matters and later reports back on how it used those funds. The legislature made it clear in its discussions on the floor that it was not taking away authority from the state board, but simply clarifying the existing process. Opening a new school while still funding existing schools is almost certain to require more funds than previously allocated. The General Assembly was, therefore, ensuring that enough funds existed for the opening of these new schools, not the politicized and backdoor dealing of some schools over others, but the allocation of funds for that purpose, placed in the charter school line item, such that the state board was then equipped to distribute according to their scoring process. In other words, the legislature and the executive constitutionally worked alongside one another, appropriating and then expending. 2 viable charter schools with community support, just looking behind us at our kids and our families who are here today, and exceptionally strong ratings from CSDE are stuck in a perpetual purgatory where they have initial approval, but nonsensically no path towards ever receiving their charter, unless the state board asserts its proper role and authority in this process. We ask you to do so today by voting in favor of the declaratory rulings before you. Thank you.
John is an idiot.
My name is, John Taylor. I am the CEO of Elevate Charter Schools, the management company for the Danbury Charter School. We signed on to the petition with Capital Prep of Middletown because we're in agreement that the State Department of Education has a very clear and transparent ranking process, and that process should be the one that informs to legislators which schools should be approved and in what order. And we recognize now that we're not in agreement as to how that law is being interpreted. I go on my way to say it's kind of strange for me sitting up here because I was the founding principal of Booker T. Washington Academy, and the State Department of Ed has been so right on so many occasions in my 12 years of experience in the state of Connecticut. But on this particular one, my biggest
Good evening, Vice Chair Benham, Commissioner, and board members. Thank you so much this evening for moving us forward on the agenda as we have our students here.
Could I have the audience, please, if you're going to have discussions, to move out so that we can hear our presentations, please? Thank you.
I know in the essence of time we have tailored our presentation, trimmed it back. This evening, you will hear from Dr. Jessica Ocasio regarding our Ed Rising program. Our students did have to leave, but she has some information to share, followed by Elizabeth Sked and our aspiring educators who are here this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Tucker. Good evening, everyone. As part of the SDE's 6 to 16 educator pathway, we are proud to highlight Educators Rising as a national and now state career and technical student organization that empowers students as early as middle school who are passionate about teaching to bring them into their journey towards becoming future educators, especially here in Connecticut. Educators Rising in Connecticut provides early exposure, skill development, and mentorships for aspiring teachers, creating a strong bridge from middle school to high school to college, and ultimately to our classrooms. The program continues to grow across the state. Last year, we had over 700 students registered as Educator Rising members. This program is inspiring students to see education not just as a profession, but as a calling. We did have Haley, who is an Educator Rising student. She is a state cabinet member, but she is also an Educator Rising national cabinet member as well. We're so proud of her to make it to that level. Furthermore, I'm honored to introduce Dr. John Ramos, interim CEO of Educators Rising and PDK, and a former Connecticut superintendent with us to highlight Educators Rising. Through Educators Rising, our students are able to participate in several programs. This past summer, they participated in a summer leadership program at Central Connecticut State University, where they learned all about the parliamentary procedures. So they would be able to sit right into these meetings and follow along with Roger's rules. They were provided training with Adrian Stratton, providing literature to take back with them, so that way when our cabinet members have their meetings, they're following the proper procedures for holding that meeting. They also have opportunities to have clinical experiences in their neighborhood schools, and they also have opportunity to discuss and have conversations all about education and policies impacting education with our state legislators at the Capitol. We are also incredibly proud of the collaborative work that we have going on between CEA's Aspiring Educators Program and Ed Rising. Together, they're building intentional connections between college students preparing to enter the profession of education and our high school students who are just beginning to explore their passion for teaching. So here with me, we have our aspiring educators. We have Hannah Spinner, who is the state chair for Aspiring Educators, and we have Rebecca Singleton, vice chair with us, and their advisor from CEA, Elizabeth Sked. So this is a partnership that is just a powerful example of how we can strengthen, sustain the educator pipeline from grades 6 through 16, just to ensure that every student in Connecticut has access to diverse, well-prepared, and inspiring teachers. And I'm going to pass it over to our aspiring educators.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Sked. I work for Connecticut Education Association as the Education Issues Specialist. In that job, one of my roles is to serve as the state aspiring ed organizer. Arguably my favorite part of my job. I say it out loud all the time. A little bit about the program. I've been in the role for 3 years and we've grown tremendously. When I first started, we had under 80 members. Last year, we ended with 438 student members. Currently, we're just under 250. We start at 0 every year. They have to renew their membership every year, so we're doing great things. Our job is to support college students through their EPP program and offer opportunities for a wide variety of things, which I'm going to let the students talk about because they're the ones who really do the work. I just walk beside them. But to be clear, I just want to make sure that they are recognized for, both Hannah and Rebecca are from UConn, and at our national conference last year, UConn was awarded the National Local Chapter Award, Local Excellence, excuse me. And Connecticut was also recognized for the State Excellence Award. So the work that our aspiring educators are doing is being recognized on the national level, and I couldn't be prouder. So Hannah and Rebecca, take it away.
Hi, thank you again for having us tonight. I'm Hannah, and I now serve as state chair, but as Scott just mentioned, I was the local president for UConn Future Educators last year, and the year before that, I was public relations. And I would say the year before that, I had no idea what a union was. So I think realizing where I am today, reflecting on the growth that I've had personally as an aspiring educator, we see how effective this program is to retaining and recruiting future educators. And that's why we're so excited to partner with Ed Rising, because we have this new pipeline where we can integrate what students are doing in high school, because there are so many aspiring educators there, and then bring them into our program and build a strong front for education and a passionate front as well. So we are guided by 4 pillars, and I want to talk a little bit about those today, because that's really what shows our values in what we do. The first one is educator quality, and we have 9 active local chapters across the state. They're all of our public universities, as well as schools like University of St. Joseph and Mitchell College and Quinnipiac University. So there for educator quality, they'll do professional development sessions. Sometimes they'll bring in CEA staff members. They'll also bring in their professors as well to come and talk about what it's like to be a teacher. Related to that, they'll have teacher panels. So they'll bring in new teachers, or they'll bring in veteran teachers or minority teachers to talk about their experiences so that we're well prepared for the profession. On top of that, they do praxis study sessions, because educator certification exams are something that are a big stressor a lot of the time. So they try their best to prepare their students for that. Following that, they also do a lot of community engagement. I have to say this is where I see a lot of the biggest participation from our local members. So they will do STEM nights with local districts. A lot of local chapters are now doing pen pals, which is really awesome. So they get to talk with some of the students in local schools as well and give them advice and get that connection going. And they'll also do book drives and collect gifts during the holiday season. And it's wonderful. And that way we also partner with CEA's charitable arm, which is the Connecticut Education Foundation. And they run an annual program, Holiday Bear, and they sponsored over 800 students. And the local chapters will take at least one student most of the time and wrap gifts for them. As for racial and social justice, this is something that we're looking to do more of, but I know Southern Connecticut State University, for example, brings in their American Sign Language Club, their ASL club, to come and integrate those skills into our aspiring educators repertoire. On top of that, we talk about multicultural literature and the issues facing special education students today, and how we can make school funding more equitable in Connecticut. And last but not least, we did a lot of this work last year, is political action. And I say we did a lot of this work because it was both at a local and a statewide level. Locally, we were able to give every chapter a puzzle piece from some grant funding that we received from the National Education Association. And each chapter got to talk about what their legislative priorities were. And they had all their participants, and over 130 aspiring educators across the state got to take part of this, and with their local chapter. And then we put all those pieces together to form an 8-foot by 8-foot puzzle piece display that represented our views and what we wanted legislators to see towards the end of the session as they prioritize their voting right before May hit. So that was unveiled at the state capitol, and it was left there for a couple of days for legislators to see. So it was a really impactful and empowering project. And we see now in planning for this year that a lot of those active chapters are doing even more of this work, are looking forward to applying for CREATE grants. So we're going to be talking about that a lot, but they are really feeling empowered. And I think that's the thing I want you to take away from this, is that these programs are so critical to the teacher recruitment and retention issues that we're seeing in Connecticut and across the nation as a whole. So when we foster these, we're able to foster a better future for our teachers.
Hi everyone, thank you. Just to add on to Hannah's, ultimately the CEA Aspiring Educator Program is mainly a really good community event, like community program where you get to collaborate with all different chapters from colleges throughout the state. I go to University of Connecticut and I would have never thought I would be talking to someone from Quinnipiac University. So it's just an awesome experience for everyone to get involved, and it causes that collaboration that a lot of people don't see, since education is a very collaborative effort. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time. We wanted to just share a lot of the work that we're doing within the talent office with both of our programs. We're very proud of Ed Rising. We have the support of Dr. Ramos and PDK, and we're so proud of Haley, who was here earlier and she had to leave. The first person from Connecticut, the first student that has made it to the national level organization, and our aspiring educators so very closely with. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for presenting to us. This is always, aspiring educators is always someone that we want to hear from. And I was so impressed with over 700. Wow, I remember when this first started, and wow, it's come a long, long way. Comments or questions from the board?
I just want to publicly say that I know from personal experience, because the National Aspiring Ed Conference happens right before the NEA Representative Assembly, and Connecticut's Aspiring Ed program is the envy of the rest of the country. So good job with the work that you're doing. I wish something like that existed back when I was in an EPP. Keep doing great things for our state and for your peers. We really see the benefits of it, so thank you.
I just wanted to add my voice of thanks as well for the work that you're doing, and thank you for hanging in with us this evening. One of the things, going to my report, which will be shortened at some point, but I just wanted to, one of the focus areas that we're continuing to work on is expanding our educator workforce. And this is exactly the kinds of things in the partnership. Dr. Ramos, and some of you that don't know, that was also deputy commissioner of the agency at some point in time, but really just appreciate the union and the department and PDK, just the organizations working together collaboratively. We're always proud that Connecticut is a leader in this space. So thank you for all the work that you're doing, and we welcome you to education.
May I have a motion for item 8A, Capital Prep Schools petition for declaratory road? Mr. McKeon.
Thank you. I didn't have time to speak, so I dropped off my comments.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, I am Michael McKeon, the Director of Legal and Governmental Affairs for the Connecticut State Department of Education. There's one point on which I would concur with Attorney Samaruga, and that is that this board already has Capital Preps and Danbury Charters multiple filings, as well as the proposed declaratory ruling that the Division of Legal and Governmental Affairs has provided. Therefore, spending excessive time restating the arguments that were set forth in either their arguments or their filings or the legal analysis that underscores the proposed declaratory ruling would just be not a good use of this board's time. I think, however, it's important to address the red herrings that Capital Prep has released into this evening's stream of comments. As both Attorney Samaruga and his client, Dr. Perry, have demonstrated, when one cannot refute the substance of an opposing opinion, in this case, the proposed declaratory ruling, attack the process. For lawyers, it's a trick of the tongue. They both asserted they should have had a hearing. I just listened to 2 hours of comments in which the public made their opinions quite clear. But be that as it may, and as Attorney Tom Ruga well knows, there is no legal right to a hearing. This board has never engaged in a hearing in prior petitions for declaratory ruling, most recently in May of 2024, when Brass City and Booker T brought their petition for declaratory ruling for the board. The board decided it what we lawyers call on the papers, on the legal memoranda and briefs that had been filed. Attorney Tom Ruga also knows from his many years of litigating in federal court, it is common practice for tribunals to determine legal arguments regardless of their magnitude without a hearing. Thus, Attorney Tom Ruga's attempt to characterize this board's process as some kind of outlier is at best disingenuous. I also need to address one other attack on the process, one that, to an extent, more directly involves me, the rotten root, as Dr. Perry characterized me. As you know, and I've referenced, you do have a legal division. I represented, before I joined the state, I represented the interests of school boards for close to 30 years. So I know all the attorneys. I know all the school law attorneys in the state. And the attorneys that you have the good fortune to have working for you are the best legal school attorneys in the state of Connecticut. It's our job as lawyers. It is our obligation. The hell of the job. It's our obligation to provide our clients, who are the state board, you individuals, as well as the CSDE, with objective legal opinions and guidance. Attorney Tom Ruga, however, came before you and cited a letter that was written by the Office of the Governor on January 28th of this year, in which the governor's office rejected the same arguments that Capital Prep has brought before this board. And he stated that, well, given that, essentially, I kowtowed, or the division kowtowed, because that's what the governor's office wanted. So I violated my obligation to provide you with objective legal analysis. You know, if that weren't so patently absurd, it'd be grossly insulting. But you know what the message, you attack the messenger. That's why they pay lawyers to take the hit. I would just add though, however, and you know, maybe I'm being a bit petty, but I would have suggested that Dr. Perry and Attorney Samaruga get their story straight. Because according to Attorney Samaruga, I violated my obligations to you because of the governor's letter. According to Dr. Perry, I wrote the letter. So apparently, in drafting the proposed declaratory ruling, I was intimidated by myself. That, in fact, is not the case. Now, with respect to the substance, and again, I'm not going to delve deep into this. You've read it all, and I don't want to torture you and keep you here any later. But there are some points that have to be made for your benefit and for the benefit of the individuals who have spoken here this evening. Over the past 10 years, since the enactment of Public Act 15239, the State Board has issued a number of initial certificates of approval. And in turn, the General Assembly has chosen to fund many of these. Not all of them, as is clear from the proceeding tonight, but many of them. It's a two-step process. The law could not be clearer. Section 10-66BB, subsection A1, says State Board has one responsibility. That's to issue an initial certificate of approval. Once that step is satisfied, it then moves to the General Assembly. Under 1066BB, subsection A2, The legislature is the appropriating body. There can be no dispute about that. It is only at that point, under Connecticut law, that a charter school applicant becomes a charter school. It's clear in the law. It's clear in the statute. Capital Prep throughout this process is like to say that we're twisting the language of the statute. We are reading the statute. Now, both Capital Prep, Middletown, Danbury Charter, with respect to both of them, the state board satisfied that first step. It issued to each of them an initial certificate of approval. It wouldn't have done so if it didn't think that they could have the potential to be positive influences on education, to be good schools. This board takes its responsibility seriously. They don't just hand these out. It goes through a vetting process. And the CSDE, and I know you members of the state board, join me in this. We are not indifferent to the concerns and the issues that have been raised by tonight's speakers. But as a matter of law, the state board has done everything it can for them by issuing the initial certificate of approval. The concerns and issues raised this evening were very eloquent, very impressive students. But they should be addressing the General Assembly. They should be addressing the legislatures that they have elected, because it is only the legislature that can turn a charter school applicant into a charter school. And that is what is reflected in the proposed declaratory ruling. Now, Capital Prep, in their legal submissions, and tonight, Attorney Salmruga reiterated that in 2023, the legislature never identified the charter school applicants that it was funding. Somehow they just gave money, untethered to any specific school. Now, the board members, having read the proposed declaratory ruling, know that that's simply not true. On June 5th, 2023, on the House of Representatives floor, Representative Nuccio notes it's a $7 million reduction in year 2 for charter schools. Representative Walker, who is the co-chair of the Appropriations Committee, which is significant, states that is the removal of the funding for the Middletown school. Representative Nuccio says, okay, so Middletown is then out now. And the Speaker of the House, Matthew Ritter, stated, Representative Walker, can you clarify that it was in Middletown? Representative Walker responded succinctly, yes. I don't think the legislative intent could have been any clearer than that. And this was then reflected when the Office of Fiscal Analysis laid out where the monies were to go to. It expressly stated 2 charter schools, neither of which are Capital Prep Middletown, neither of which are located in Middletown. Now, they say, however, that despite what the law says, despite what the legislator said, you should fund. Ignore the proposed declaratory ruling and say, hey, we're going to fund, that you should have funded. As we noted in the proposed declaratory ruling, had you done so, you would be in direct violation of Section 4-97 of the Connecticut General Statutes. And that statute speaks not just to agencies, it speaks to board members and commissioners and individuals employed by these agencies. You would have been in direct violation of the law. So finally, and I know that's the word you've been waiting for, both Attorney Salmruga and Mr. Taylor have suggested that you should simply punt. Hey, you know what, let's just forget about it. Let's forget about it, we'll knock it over to Connecticut Superior Court. Let's hear what they have to say. All right, so let me give this some thought here. So we're here tonight because Capital Prep filed a petition for declaratory ruling. They came to you, they petitioned to you and said, please issue a declaratory ruling. Danbury Charter joined up with that petition. And now, confronted with the fact that the ruling's not the ones they were seeking, facing the reality of their request having no legal basis, they're essentially saying, never mind, never mind. The law is the law. It's as simple as that. As such, and as the proposed declaratory ruling is predicated solely on the law, it is the CSDE's strong recommendation that you at the state board recognize that law and vote to issue the proposed declaratory ruling that is before you. Thank you.
Before I open up questions to the board, I do want to introduce Attorney Cunningham from the AG's office, who is with us for our legal, for the board's legal, if needed. Board members, questions?
I have a question. Sorry, I don't know if this mic, as usual, I don't know if my mic is on. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you to the participants, and thank you to Mike and to
Dr. Zimmer, just for the
thank you to the participants today, and thank you to Mike, and thank you to Darren Cunningham for your brief. Okay, so I am not a lawyer. I have rarely been more grateful for that, actually, than I was when I was reading these briefs. But I did try to read them carefully because I felt that it was, our responsibility to understand what was in them. And I guess I do, when I read them, I felt that one thing that they agreed upon was that the law was very clear. They disagreed about what, of course, it was saying, what it was clear about. Again, not a lawyer, but I felt when I read the law, when I read these briefs, that there was, at least again to me, real ambiguity here in the text of the law about, for example, what constituted an approval, who made an approval, and that had some implications potentially for what our role should be. Mike is right that we've heard the capital prep side of this, I think, at previous meetings, but this was the first time I'd seen the DLGA, basically the brief from the government. I don't know if others had seen it previously, but I had not. I don't think we discussed it previously in a meeting. And I guess I had a question that I'm hoping maybe that either Mike or Darren can clarify for me, right? Okay. So to me, when I read the law, right, there is this passage that the capital prep brief focuses on to a great degree, and there's many points of debate, but this is one of them, right? Which is this passage, and I'll make sure I get it right here. I'm going to look at it. I took a little screenshot on my phone, so I would apologize to me 1 second while I grab it. It says 1066 EEK, right? The famous part here that we've been debating about how the state board shall make these choices, essentially what that says. And then the debate becomes, among schools that are, I believe the phrase is something like approved and awaiting funding, if I have it approximately right. Okay. Now, when you read that, it says, okay, it sounds like it might be a situation like the one we're in. The state brief, again, to a lay reader, right? The state brief says, no, that is not the situation we're in here. This is not the situation where a school has been approved and awaiting funding. That law is referring to some other situation. And I struggled as I was reading the brief to figure out, I guess I would appreciate clarity on what that other situation is, right? What is the situation other than this one to which that's referring? And I guess I found that hard to parse, and maybe this is just me not understanding the law fully, but it would be helpful for clarification here for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmerman. Well, yeah, this perhaps the statute is perhaps the statutory scheme is not perhaps not one that would win the award for most clearest drafting by the legislature, but nonetheless, one thing I find interesting, and circle back to your question, but is that this is the process that's been in place for 10 years.
I take that point, and I
Right,
agree, there's
okay.
lots of other things I could have asked about, but I take that point.
Essentially, it says under 1066BB, we do the initial certificate of approval, send it over to the legislature gives its benediction with respect to what schools are going to be funded, if any of them are going to be funded. They can simply say, we're not going to fund any of them.
Sure.
I know Danbury has been waiting for many years to get funded. And then, once the legislature has, as they did in this case, expressly state who was going to be funding, and perhaps more relevant to this matter, who's not going to be funded,
sure. That
funding then is appropriated to the State Department of Education. And 1066EE subsection, 1066EE and what I didn't want to get way too much into the weeds and the legal analysis and the declaratory ruling, but nonetheless sets forth, and once the money is appropriated by the legislature, the formulas by which it's going to be addressed.
Right.
Exactly. So that's the funding that has now been given to the State Department of Education pursuant to the funding mechanisms and formulas set forth in 10-66EE. Then that money is how they are going to then be disseminated to the successfully funded by the legislature charter schools. Now, could be a situation where, yeah, we funded it, but you didn't fund it as much as you should have. So we've got to decide, where does the money go? How do we do that? We can't flip a coin. We can't say, geez, we got to come up with some kind of idea. So there's certain criteria set forth in 1066EEK as to what steps we have to follow with respect to determining how the money that has been appropriated to us by the legislature, how we are then going to turn around and allocate it to these charter schools. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you, but I'm looking at the statutory.
No,
language.
I actually did a lot of this myself.
Oh.
There's a lot, I mean, just in the sense of it requires a detailed read as well.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is they talk about criteria, and they do talk about it in order of importance as follows.
So there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, and there's 4 of them. But the 4th one, it's funny, it's the least important of the 4, in terms of statutory language, but it says whether the applicant has plans concerning the preparedness of facilities, staffing, and outreach to students. So it's applicants can't advertise themselves as charter schools until they've gotten funding from the legislature. So once they get the funding, then it's suddenly like, okay, all right, we're getting the money. It's going to get appropriated to the State Department of Education. We can now advertise at the charter school. We can now go out and try to get students. We can now get a facility up and running. We can do all these things. So there is this, it's not like, boom, we got the money, we got students, we're teaching. So there is a process, and we have to figure out these formulas in determining the money that we have, how are we going to fund it? Well, okay, with this school, we think they've got a good program in place. The quality of the proposed program, we know they've done a good job before. This is not their first rodeo. They've done a good job before. It's a school district with a demonstrated need, urban districts such as New Haven, Newark, Stamford, what have you. And then where are they in terms of getting their school, the actual physical facility and employees up and running? So that is what that's referring to. That is not referring to us deciding, okay, who we're going to, we got this barrel full of cash. They brought the wheelbarrow of cash and emptied it at our feet, and we're going to say, okay, what are we going to do with it? They have been specifically appropriated to these schools, and then we're determining, based upon these criteria, where are they at? What are they in the process of doing? Does it look like they're ramping up? And that's how we decide where the money is going to be appropriated.
So this would be a scenario where the legislature has appropriated the funding.
Yeah.
But that money has not made its way to the schools at the same time as one another?
No, the money is not appropriated directly to the schools, it's appropriated to us, to the State Department of Education.
So the money comes to us.
To us.
I guess, has that ever happened?
No, the legislature, since 2015, the legislature specifically fund specific schools as they did here. And then that money that they've appropriated is provided to now as an English major. But nonetheless, my understanding is that it's appropriated to us at the State Department of Education. And then we now have these charter schools who finally are approved. And then it's the process of ramping them up. And we're taking that money and allocating where the money's going to go.
Okay, so just to push this a little bit farther, because I actually still feel like I'd like a little bit of clarity here. Capital preps for a bunch of this in the letter from the other day was that actually when we fund these charter schools from appropriations, if I'm using the vocabulary correctly, it's also set out elsewhere in the statute, like we're supposed to give them certain amounts of money at certain times. So what would be, I guess I guess I see the real ambiguity how this is written down, and there are points that you guys made in the brief that I think are strong. This is one where I'm still struggling to see what this means, other than, I'm still struggling to envision that case where this happened. And I guess I'm curious how we know about what the intent was, really.
What the intent is, we are funding, we got 3 applicants, we're funding 2 of them. The third one's out. In this case, it was capital prep. I really don't know, when Danbury Charter came up, who else, I might not even be with the department, then I don't know, but who else was up for funding at that point? But they said, these are the 2 schools. This money is for these 2 schools.
Sorry.
Now, there is a formula in 1066EE. Again, there's formula that's predicated in part upon how many students you're gonna have, whether it's students with disabilities. These are some of the determinations that have to guide us as to how the money is going to be allocated.
So let me rephrase the question a little bit. I totally agree with you, actually, that it's clear that the legislature did not intend to fund capital prep. I mean, I think that you've convinced me fully on that. I guess my question is more, there's some argument in the state's legal brief about what the intent of this overall section of the law was, and the argument is the intent was to allow, when the law was initially passed, to allow the legislature to fund individual schools, right?
Yeah, I think the bottom line, and this is, probably simplifying it too much, but I think the bottom line is, okay, let's just take hypothetical numbers. Legislature has approved $10 million, $5 million, or $10 million is going to fund school X and school Y. Well, given the formulas that are set forth in 1066EE, it's not simply like, okay, we get $5 million here, we get $5 million there. There's a formula that we have to go through. We have to determine where they're at, what their chances of success are, and ramping up and getting students and getting up to speed. And that determines where the money is getting. Because you might have a school, you might have one charter school. Let's say charter prep had been funded, and again, they weren't. But let's say they have prior charter schools. How about Achievement First? They've got more than one charter school. So you can look and see, well, hey, they've done this before. They are on the ball, they're moving forward, they're ramping up, getting up to speed. And then we have another applicant who's taking them a little bit more time because they haven't done this before. They had a great proposal. That's why we gave them the initial certificate of approval, but they're not maybe at the same place or the same context as the other school. So that gives us, the legislature is basically giving us the flexibility to decide among these specified schools that we have specifically funded, how we're going to then disseminate that money. Oh, yeah, sure, please do.
I'm happy to, again,
Yeah, I was going to ask, I'm sorry, that here our fiscal services director to share the funding mechanism, because I think it would be extremely helpful to understand what the state gets in its line item for charter school and what happens when new schools are also appropriated. I think that would be very helpful.
Mike is good at so many things that I'm not good at, but this might be my thing here. So
I think I'm being implicitly dissed.
I just want to try to help with this. So when we get funding for charter schools, we're not funded at the full level for every school. So we have we have the capacity for each school, but we're not funded at full capacity for each school. So, and by the way, I'm Jessica Brunetti. I am the Chief of Fiscal Administrative Services for CSD. We're not funded at the full capacity for each school. So we have to figure out looking at we get one pot of money for all of the charter schools within the state. So it's not just looking at the new schools that are in, it's all of the schools that we have currently up and running. So we look at past history of what their funding, what their capacity has been. If you have 100, if your capacity is 100 and you're more around 75, we're budgeting you at that 75 level. We have to figure out how to appropriate less. We don't have the money
to give the money out to everybody at the full amount. So by looking at the criteria that's in the legislation, the 4 steps, it kind of helps us figure out, based on the criteria, how we're going to decide to fund everybody, because we don't have enough money to fund everybody at full capacity.
And these are, again, be clear, existing schools. That is in the pipeline. So our budget line item, right, is appropriated for the existing schools within the pipeline, based on what we're telling them, you know, the enrollment growth, all of those, the existing schools, that's in the budget. And so when there's a new charter school, we have a line item, they've added that to the line item, but in the budget notes will say that we're funding this new school at this amount and X new school at this amount, right? But sometimes it's not even sufficient for what folks are planning to do. And there's a process to work through that.
It's usually not. Even the new schools are not likely funded at the level that we need for full capacity. There's a baseline funding amount, but then there's other indicators that we fund based on certain need factors that cause an increase in the actual funding need for that school. So like the base is $11,525. There's other pieces that get added into that. So it could cost between $13,000 and $15,000 in reality to fund the school, but we're only given the $11,525. So we have to figure out how to fund each school appropriately based on the money we have available.
Okay.
We never have enough money to fund things at the level we want to, or that we fully need to.
Okay, so you're describing a scenario where just I can make sure I understand or rephrase, where a school is approved and money is appropriated for that school, but the money that's been appropriated in total for all extant charter schools is not sufficient to fund those charter schools, essentially, or not.
It's not efficient to fund the charter schools at full capacity.
Full capacity level, so that then you would allocate the appropriated funds to the new charter schools that we're funding in this manner.
Not for new schools awaiting funding. You're talking about the
schools.
schools that the legislature says are going to be funded.
But I mean, I'm quoting from the law itself when I say awaiting funding. Right, I mean, that was the intent there, right? It's like that was the intent of my quote. I mean,
The funding that we are appropriated though is for all schools. So it's the
Yeah.
schools in existence plus the schools that are awaiting funding.
okay, so this is sort of how you prioritize the new ones in a scenario where that may be unclear because they don't have, enrollment counts that are available for you to observe, as would be the case with
However, the legislature indicate which schools those are.
right. I see that point. Okay, thank you. I'll cede the floor here.
Ms. Calvarza.
First of all, I really appreciate the public comment at this meeting and at prior meetings. This meeting was just very moving to hear from so many. It raises a question in my mind, which may not be appropriate for conversation or discussion at this meeting. I trust that you consider this in terms of whether it's appropriate as an agenda item or a workshop at a future meeting. It sounds from all of the comments that we've heard that Danbury and Middletown are in this period or place of, I think someone used the word limbo. And I would be curious, and again, at another meeting or a workshop, to have a better understanding as to what happens to them. Is it over and done? Or do they go through a process of applying for approval again? And just hearing about Danbury that was approved back in, I think, 2017, 2018, and they're still coming forward with their questions, with their concerns. So just from a standpoint of understanding what is the process, if there is a process or not, because it seems as though with Danbury, it's gone on for quite some time, and with Capital Prep Middletown, we're talking about multiple years. So
I would just share, and maybe Laura, Stefan, who is our legislative liaison, can share with you. Growth is, and any new one that the board has given initial support for, that is in the pipeline for funding. And that's a part of that conversation every year when we go through the appropriation process. So the legislature is very well aware of all of that, and we share with them what the enrollment would be, what the funding would be necessary for them to be funded. We can share those documents with you. It happens. We put through the schools that are awaiting funding based on their approvals. All of that is provided to the legislature, and we share with them how much it would cost for them to fund those schools.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Ms. Franklin?
I don't need an exact number, but could you estimate, or could someone estimate, approximately how many charter schools has the board granted an initial certificate for that do not currently have funding?
5, I think. Is it 5 or 6?
Okay, so
I think it's about
about
5.
5 or 6. And is it correct that based on the legal brief and the law that I have read and processed, that regardless of when those initial certificates were granted, that the communities and the school can continue to advocate with the General Assembly for funding? Is there a time limit on that?
No time limit.
Okay. So the 5 schools or 6 schools that are currently not funded could have advocated for funding in the previous legislative session, is that correct?
That's correct.
And they can advocate for it again in the future?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we've seen Danbury come back in front of the board since their initial in 2018. They've come back a couple of times. One I can remember when they changed their management company. So they've come back to change. Went ahead again to the General Assembly, but were not approved for funding. So that's why they're still sitting there. But that does happen. Yes, you may.
So follow-up question, and I'm gonna play I'm new card still, even though this is my second year. I believe I heard you say that this particular section of the legislation, the state board has not utilized this in the past 10 years? Would that be correct?
Excuse me, in the past 10 years, the Public Act 269 was enacted by the legislature and signed into law by the governor, that this is the process that's been followed. We have given the initial certificates of approval to those schools that we feel are entitled to an initial certificate of approval, and then the legislature has done the funding.
So my experience, my most pertinent legal experience is in negotiating contracts. And when we negotiate contracts in my district, often after a contract is settled, we'll refer to something like as established practice. Is that paralleled in this situation, what you just described, or is it different?
Precedent.
Have established practice.
Or a course of conduct. I would say no. I mean, I think that we make an individual determination based upon the experts in our department who look into the academic and all the charter applications, all the criteria, and then the recommendation that's made by the commissioner to the state board, and the state board decides whether or not to issue the initial certificate of approval. That's done on an individualized basis, and as we've indicated, these charter applicants can then, they can continue to advocate to the legislature for funding. I mean, I know I said it before, but I think it's important to reiterate, based upon many of the comments that were made tonight, State Department of Education has no animus toward or beef with Danbury Charter or Capital Prep Middletown. We gave, I'm not promoting myself, the state board issued them an initial certificate of approval. Because based upon the CSDE's recommendation, the commissioner's recommendation, we felt they had great potential. The commissioner would not make such a recommendation if she did not sincerely believe that. Nor would staff members at the CSDE share their recommendation with the commissioner if they did not believe that. So Under the two-step process under 1066BB subsection A, the state board did its job. CSD did its job, the state board did its job. And now to become a full-fledged charter school again, it's in the hands of the legislature.
One quick follow-up to Kristen's comment here. So first off, Mike, I couldn't agree with you more that I certainly don't read this as you or anybody else here on this board having animus towards capital prep. We did, I mean, not we, but previous incarnations of this board approved this, right? That being said, this question is sort of about the role we play here. And well, again, I stick to my point that I found some ambiguity in the law. I would say that I even find some ambiguity, candidly, in this hearing about whether 10.6 EEK is something that we use routinely when we're allocating funding across excellent charter schools, or something that we haven't used before, right? And so anyway, I truly do have, like, while I appreciate the arguments you're making, it feels to me like a hard question at some level. Yeah.
Dr. Carlson.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and again, appreciate all the comments today. I'm going to play the really new guy card. As I was doing research similar to Dr. Zimmerman, the one thing that I needed clarification on, whether that's from Attorney Cunningham or you, that subsection, that 10-66 EEK, from what I was reading, is that only applies if the legislature specifically funds a charter. And now you don't have enough money, so you use that ranking to decide who gets funded. But does it specifically say in that language, if the legislature funds? Like, is that in there to go to the ranking? Because I think the implication in what I read from Capital Prep was that we have the right to use that ranking to determine who should get funded. But from what I read in the general statutes was that only falls if the legislature specifically approves funding for that school. So if the legislature did not approve funding specifically for them, that subsection doesn't apply. Can somebody clarify that?
No, that's absolutely correct. And in fact, 1066 EE subsection K incorporates by reference 1066 BB, which talks about the two-step approval process doing funding.
Thank you.
Dr. Levis?
I don't know if this is on. Oh, yeah, it is. It's just so, well, I love the comments that were made, very moving. And I was just interested that there was this, I think of Waterbury, in Denver approved, and they waited so many years. And I was just wondering, is there a process like helping them, this is what you need to do, or this is the process you need to follow? I don't know if there's anything like that available.
We actually granted them their initial.
Right.
Yeah,
We
did.
They go through accountability, so it was granted, but once it goes to the General Assembly, it's the funding issue from them that we wait on. And unfortunately, from Danbury, they've been waiting since 2018.
And they get informed. We've informed, they get informed that
Yes.
it was, and then, and these are the things that they should go and talk to the legislator. They should go and they're told that. Okay.
It's interesting though, your question, because I reminded me of the 2015, June 2nd, 2015 legislative debate, which led to Public Act 15, I think I said 269 before, 239. And Representative Fleischman, who was then co-chair of the Ed Committee, stated in part, and it's on page 8 of the proposed declaratory ruling, once an initial certificate of approval has been granted, which again, that's the state board's role, the organizers of a charter school can then seek to be included in the budget of the government of the state of Connecticut. So the thinking is that really it's not our role is to kind of tee it up, so to speak. We give them the initial certificate of approval, off you go. And it's up to the individuals to go and try to lobby the legislators or whatever the case may be to try to get that funding. We give them the materials, they have it, and then I mean, they know that we've given the initial certificate of approval, and then, really it's within the bailiwick of the individual seeking funding to pursue it.
We ready to vote? All in favor of the ruling in front of us, presented in front of us? Aye. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you abstain?
No, I didn't.
If I can make a request, I don't want to be presumptuous here and speak on Attorney Cunningham's behalf, but if the board has no further need of him, I think he'd appreciate going home to watch the Yankees game.
Yes. Go Yankees. We're counting on you. He's a Red Sox fan.
Well, actually, I am too.
We're going to return to the regular agenda item number 4, the consideration of minutes. There is, you have the correction. There is a correction and a name in the public participation of one of our Paul Gianfrido should be. No.
Second.
Yes, we do have Paul Gianfrido was incorrectly listed in the minutes. Is there any other changes or alterations to the minutes? I don't have whatever. It's either listed as John and supposed to be Paul, or it's listed as Paul and supposed to be John. We'll correct that. We were told when we got here today that it was incorrect. You've got that, Alda? Okay. All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. My report. First of all, I'd like to welcome officially Dr. Carlson. Thank you. So happy to have a pediatrician back with us as a member of our board. And I know that North Haven is probably ready to go home soon, but certainly we want to thank them for not only our Blue Ribbon celebration this afternoon, but accommodating and hosting us this evening. The Blue Ribbon, and thank you for all the board members who could attend. It was just wonderful, and it's just such a nice thing to see that the state of Connecticut acted on it right away. Thank you to the commissioner and the governor's office for doing so, and that we recognize our Blue Ribbon schools and that we had 4 of them. Our charter hearings start tomorrow. Thank you for all the board members who are overseeing them. And for our newer board members, if you haven't been one, you can attend any one. If you'd like to see how it goes, it's a pretty easy process, but those start tomorrow. I did attend an EES council meeting, and that's our Educator evaluation system meeting. That they had a seminar or a panel down in Bristol late last month. It is going very well. Our new evaluation system is really going very well in our schools. And I've asked for perhaps in a future meeting that they present to the whole board so that you could have some of the parties come in front of us to explain what they've done, because it's really an extensive work that they've done over, I think it's been going on 3 years. But it is such a good plan, and so just share with the entire board. There's a couple of, and at the 5 districts presented about their plan and how successful they've been. So that's a good thing to see with it. There's a couple of dates that I want you to be aware of. We all received dates about that's coming up with our announcements of our Parent Teacher of the Year will be coming up soon. Please let all this know if you can attend those when the dates are there. A reminder, November 21st. I know we'll have a board member before that, but Cave and Cass conference is on the 21st. And I believe we have, we'll be getting invites. And again, those responses, make sure that all of knows that you'll be attending. And then December 2nd, just so it's on your calendar, is our Teacher of the Year big celebration at Bushnell. And that is my report. And then we're going to move to committees. And this is, we've changed this a little bit and brought the committee reports up further to be underneath the board. So I will report out on academic and standards. We met a couple of weeks ago. Thank you to Irene Parisi, Paul Castellone, and Dr. Maribel Alarira. We had two great presentations. AI education was covered and a pilot update. That update I was asked to share at NASB, and so that's now being shared across the country because they were very much interested in what Connecticut was doing, and that pilot has been very successful. So we'll be hearing more about that as well. We also got an update on K-12 world language curriculum. And again, just to listen, and I know Dr. Labus was with us, to listen to this committee and the work that they do is just amazing because they have brought in so many educators. So many people come to the table to do this work on both the AI and as well as all our curriculums. It is something really to be very proud of how much work they do and what they put in and who they bring to the table to do this work, which is so great to see. So that was academic standards and assessment, accountability and support. We met also last month. We had two terrific presentations there. So I thank Jen Webb and Felicia Canty. We went over, and it was a great meeting for some of our newer board members and the committee itself to have sort of a brief update on the review of the monitoring for accountability and support in the Commissioners Network, extensions, all those types of things that we do through accountability. For those of you who are not on the committee and you'd like to see that presentation, just let me know and I can get that to you. But it really gives us a real good background of where it starts and how it goes all the way through. And we saw a great presentation on that. We also got review of the charter process, the renewal process and how we go through that, how charter schools come to us, what we do, what our committee does, pushes it to the full board, and then it goes to the commissioner for her recommendation. So sort of what we've seen here tonight and talked a little bit about tonight. We also, at our last accountability, we had an update on Capital Prep Harbor Charter, which was in Bridgeport, which was a very real informative update, and they're doing extremely well. Our next meeting for accountability and support is November 12th. So I don't have to do the next one. Sorry, so finance,
I have the finance report for Mr. Harris. We want to thank Keith Norton and of course the rest of the team for all the work that they've been doing while our current director is out on sick leave. And one of the things that we are very appreciative of is the extra hard work that has been happening to try to get additional staffing in order to catch up and with the tremendous workload and things that they're trying to work through. So thank you, Keith, for making sure that you are able to wrangle somebody to come and work with you to make sure that moves forward. We also want to give extra thanks again for just the continual explanation about what's been happening, and we're certainly very appreciative again for all the work that happens with that. Our next meeting is going to be November 18th. The next committee, Legislative and Policy Development, we met before the start of this meeting, and we had two proposals that we entertained. The first that we looked at was a recommendation that the State Board of Education formally adopt the Para Pathways Assessment as the successor to the Para Pro Assessment, and that's going to include any bridge offerings designed to support para educators during the transition period. We have passed that, and that will come forward. The other presentation we had was looking at proposed regulatory changes to early childhood certifications, trying to address the full early childhood, early intervention, and educational professional span in one certificate. There were some excellent points made about questions with regards to how people would be bridged with bringing in the certifications, and we have asked them to go back and seek clarity and provide additional guidelines or information on guidelines that will help to address some of the concerns that the committee had. And they will be bringing those back to us with additional perspective so that we can ensure that people who are currently certified were not going to be cut off and be without jobs. So again, that's the report from this committee.
Thank you. Our CTAC schools system.
Yes, hi, thank you all. I just wanted to share a little bit of data. We just got our October 1, data report. And so we have 11,700 students, 500 more than we had last year. So we are shoehorning them into our high schools at the moment. And have a slight uptick in special ed. We're hitting almost 18%, which is the state number. I do want to mention that 6 of our 17 schools have 20% or more, some of them close to 25. So they are, experiencing a increased need for students and not necessarily the staffing they need. But we are also actually tomorrow doing a bunch of special ed 101 training across the state for teachers. Again, trying to make sure they have the tools that they need to succeed with their student population. So we're off to a strong start at CTEX this fall, and hopefully that'll hold going forward. But thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Diamond had to leave, but I know I was.
I'm sure she'd love to have her 2 seconds when she gets back.
Oh, she's here. Oh,
Yeah,
she's
she's still
okay.
here.
I will get back to her. I'll give the NASB report. Since our last meeting, we've actually had 2 member exchanges since then. Thank you to Dr. Lavis and Ms. Record for attending. We've had a lot of things sent out through NASB. Our cell phone guidelines are one that NASB has asked for on many occasions. We were actually even in their newest newsletter, that the Connecticut guidelines for cell phones were in there. Reciprocity was shared with NASB as well. I mean, they were very interested in how we are retaining teachers and just all, and it really is that one pager they just loved. And so that was shared. I had shared earlier that the AI presentation was shared just recently with the Northeast area, because we just had a meeting just the other day. They were very much interested in that. And that is a segment that is in their national conference that's coming up at the end of the month. So I told Irene Parisi that I would be bringing back what those other states are doing as well. I will be attending that conference in Austin, and NASB just announced actually this morning that they are giving, they don't always give, but their 2025 Friend of Education is going to Secretary Cardona. So that's a nice award that NASB will be given. Yes. Dr. Diamond, I'll bounce back to you. I know you said the Chancellor was going to join us in December.
Yes,
Yes.
the Chancellor says hello, and he would like to be the one to address everyone, and that will be a really good timing because our census data will be in by then. At this point, we're a couple of weeks out. So he sends his regards this evening and looks forward to speaking to everyone in December.
Thank you. We look forward to that as well. And then our last report is CERT, which you have in your folder. Still doing the great work that they're doing with special ed, and certainly Dr. Pritchard, it's like I know I mentioned it before, but they're certainly there to help with any special ed and doing all the great things that CERT is also. And that concludes my report. Commissioner.
All right, I'm going to try to move us along here rather expeditiously. But in your packet, and for the benefit of Dr. Carlson, that my report is in the supplemental packet. So I certainly won't go through that because I want to get to just really quick updates for you for Hartford and Bridgeport. We always want to make sure you know what's happening there. But take a look. Basically, it's been very busy, as you can well imagine. Lots happening, press conferences, events that we're engaged in. And again, let me welcome you, Dr. Carlson, to great to have a pediatrician back on the board. As we said earlier, and again, thank you for all of you who were able to attend our Blue Ribbon celebration. It was really great, uplifting. I think to see the work that is happening when you have a school that's not doing well and come back and get to Blue Ribbon status because of the work and support that's happening with our team in the agency, it is something to be really proud of. And so thank you for that. In addition to dashboards are us, which I talked about, we developed dashboards for just about everything. Infographics are us. So those are those one-pagers that makes it really easy to get information. But we did, for EdSite, had the Seal of Biliteracy dashboard that is now up, and maybe at another meeting, Ajit, Irene, and team can share that with you, but I wanted to know that that's there. The other thing that we released, you got it in your inbox, I believe, was the what we're doing around the industry recognized credentials, which is really important. You got 1 minute, Dr. Hughes, just to say what it is and where we are with that, because I think it's really important as we go to the board's goal about post-secondary success and what it is that we're doing there.
Thank you, Commissioner. What our internal team has done was a heavy lift in identifying over 300 industry recognized credentials that are currently available to students across the state. The intent of this is to make sure our districts know of what's available so that they can design programming to support students in a post-secondary career opportunity in earning these credentials. How's that?
Really good. Wanted you to know that. Thank you very much. You know, we had our back to school meeting earlier in September. And really great. Thank you for those who were able to be there with our superintendents kicking off the year. You also had, I sat down with an interview with WTNH, with Hetty Chang, Director of Attendance Works, talking about the work. Oh, there's a picture up there. It's in your book, in your packet, in the deck, talking about Connecticut. And once again, it was really great to hear her talk about Connecticut leading the way in this work. And we still have a lot of work to do, but boy, 3 consecutive years of progress, really important. And we are sharing good progress across the country while we continue to grow and move forward. So you have that for you. The other thing before I have Keith Norton just to come and do a quick update for Hartford Public Schools is that we're so pleased. Every year, CABE, Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, they do a Friend of Education Award. You heard that NASB's award is CABE's over Friend of Education is going to the Department of Education. So thrilled. They really recognize, I used to say that, I said the department would punch above our weight class because we have a small number of folks, but they're working really, really hard. So it's always kind of nice to get that recognition. So you'll be there if you're at the CABE Staff Convention. Thank you.
So you're gonna close down the department?
You can rate the sand. Yeah, you know there, that's great.
Exception award. Keith, if you could just give us a quick update on where we are with Hartford fiscal operation. That would be great. And then we'll move to Bridgeport, and we're moving right along here. Almost done.
Thank you, Commissioner. So quick because my computer battery is dying and my internal battery is starting to. So super quickly, and I'm taking off my glasses. Excuse me. July 2025, just a few months ago, the agency created the Hartford Public Schools Accountability and Support Team. It is comprised of team members from across the agency from nearly every one of our offices. The team is going to provide technical assistance to HBS in meeting recommendations identified in the final reports of the NSK 12 report and also the Public Works LLC report. And if you recall, those were the reports on special education and financial operations. This team, the accountability and support team, met with the new HPS superintendent and CFO on August 26th and again on September 15th. So a couple of meetings already under our belts to discuss the authorizing board action and subsequent agency review, identify points of contact for each side, and also discussing the cadence and purpose of meetings between the team and HPS. While this is happening, I'll just let you know that the final report on magnet funds utilization portion of the review is in the process of being concluded, and it should be ready for your review shortly. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
In the spirit of brevity, I have probably a 3-sentence comment, which does not require a response. Okay, so I ask, next time we discuss Hartford spending, especially in the context of Chef, I would like to talk about differential need across schools. I had several people from Hartford ask me to discuss that. So maybe next time, no response required. Thank you for your work.
Should catch that, Robin.
Keith, just a quick question. How is that with the new superintendent? Is he cooperating and being very much part of the team?
And so we had 2 good meetings with the superintendent and the CFO, and it was a lot of educating, frankly, Vice Chair. about, what brought us to this stage where we're at, what brought the board to the decision last year to ask the agency to look into this. And he comes from Maryland, and before that, I believe Michigan, but they had different laws, they had different relationships between their state Department of Education and their local school system. So it was a lot of educating and then really talking about expectations, the expectations of the agency in, over the next several months, what we expect in terms of meeting the recommendations that were outlined in those two reports and how we can help as they go through that process.
I imagine it's an awful big lift for him coming on, but I was just curious on how that was going. Thank you.
So far, so good.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Zimmerman, I know Robin was letting you talk with her. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next update for you is Bridgeport. And in your packet, you have our second version of the Bridgeport News that we'll be sending out. Nice design. Go ahead, Dr. Hughes.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just give some real highlights. Over the summer, and as you heard in September, the results of the forensic audit identifying 34 recommendations for the district. So we're currently working alongside the district to continue to support their fiscal processes. We have made a major accomplishment in supporting the district get teachers into classrooms, reducing their vacancies from 120 down to 40 through a variety of strategies for the start of school. And we have done a big assist, thank you to the leadership of our commissioner, in making sure that students get access to buses. So those were some three major areas of support that we were able to work alongside the district and the technical assistance team that is in there supporting them largely on a day-to-day basis. The last I'll note is our next steps are really to concentrate on two areas. One, we have continually received support through CABE and supporting the board and their governance, and we continue to work with them in establishing a strong, robust, and industry standard policies that guide their governance. And the second is around their designing and development of an operational budget that is balanced. So that's the next step moving forward.
So CABE is still continuing to work with them?
Yes.
Because I know there could be a change after the election in Bridgeport. I mean, that's possible. So I would imagine that they will be, if there were new board members to come on, they would continue with that training.
Yes, that is the intention. And actually the district has employed CABE to continue with training on their own in some capacity. Yeah.
Oh, good. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Redford.
In the local news, there's been a lot about Bridgeport's desire to have paraeducators in the kindergarten classrooms. I read two separate media reports that said that they were seeking approval from you, Commissioner, to utilize some of the funds that were allocated through the General Assembly for those purposes. But then I subsequently read another article in which it said that they found their own funding for the same positions. I was just wondering if you could comment on the status of the paraeducators.
So it's our understanding that yes, the district is intending to fund the paraeducators that return to the classroom. The technical assistance team is working closely with the district to ensure that the decisions on how to fund them are sustainable funding sources. And we'll be able to provide more information as time evolves in how they've essentially planned to pay for that within the existing operational budget.
So work in progress within their own budget currently.
Correct.
That's right.
Thank you.
Because to clarify, they've spent this $5 million of bond funds over and over again. Everybody's saying you should do it here, you should do it there. And I just really want to clarify, $5 million in the budget in bond funds is not available to me. It has to go through the process to be made available, and it is not. So I'm trying to clarify that with folks, because everyone's saying that $5 million, you can use some of it for that I don't have access to that. And so publicly, we're funding the work that's going to happen with public works.
Yes,
With Public Works to follow up on those 34 recommendations from the audit, along with the funding that we've done for transportation. It's out of my budget. It is not the $5 million.
That's a good thing to clarify. Thank
Yes.
you.
Just wanted to say that. All right, so thank you very much.Moving right along, in your packet, I'm going to the federal funding update, which I'll do very quickly for you so that you're aware. I've been keeping you apprised of where we are with funding. As I mentioned in the last communication that you have, if you go to page 6 of the deck, you'll see the $391.7 million. Those are funds that we have available to us. That's what we're expecting to be awarded to us. The last amount was $212 million that was due to us on October 1st. And we were a little concerned whether that would arrive with the federal shutdown, but we have those grant awards. And I look at Jessica there, we're continuing to draw funds down from the federal government for all the work that we're doing here in Connecticut in education. And also, I know John is sitting in the back, but the next page, page 8, you'll see the $297.6 million. Those are from the U.S. Department of Agriculture for all our nutrition programs. The funding continue to be available to us. We got funding thanks to John's advocacy and request. We have the funds to pay the September claims for reimbursement for 100%. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture said they do have funding available for the October that we will be paying in November. So for now, cautiously optimistic that funds are available to us and continue to be available to us in both places. So just want you to know that. Page 6, I've been sharing, this is now a few weeks old, but really top line, high level that I was sharing the budget for the federal budget for 2026 and what we know that you have the current year's budget for 2025, which is what we're working on still, and 2026, the president's proposal, and then you'll see the Senate proposal and the House proposal, just to say this is not unlike our own budget process where the governor put forward a budget and then the House and the Senate, the debates happen, same thing here. When asked for a comment on this, I said I prefer the column with few zeros in it. That's the one that would be most, I guess, welcomed for us, where there's growth in Title I and also in IDEA. But at this point in time, we have no idea what's going to happen, what the discussions are going to be. We'll keep watch on that, and you'll know what we know as soon as we know it. So, of course, the shutdown is what everybody's really talking about right now, but I wanted you to have that information. I think that is it. You have the administrative report to the governor. It's very thick. I just wanted you to have it. All those state agencies submit that report. If you look at the table of contents, you'll see anything you want to know about any of the areas of the agency, you can find it, including our accomplishments for the previous year. So you'll have that information. And that is it. And, I keep saying that is it. But beautiful pictures in your packet of shout outs. You'll see great pictures. Take a look at those. It shows that we've been extremely busy, but it's all good.
And we do appreciate the updates that we receive, and I know Anne-Marie, we see Anne-Marie come up in our email, we know we have there's reading to be done when you see that come up. So it is important though to stay on it. And I do appreciate it because often it's headlines maybe the next day, and so it's nice to be able to see that. So thank you very much for that. Yes. Motion on item 9, financial matters.
Second.
Jessica. Thank you for your assistance tonight too, Jessica.
It helped.
It did.
I will also try to keep this quick. You guys know how much I like being up here.
Oh, you're used to us now.
So last month I discussed the technical adjustments. This month we're talking about budget options. So there were a few requests. Being that we're in the second year of the biennium, we don't typically ask for as much, but there were a few things that we felt like we needed to request. The total of our requests for this year is coming in at $17.2 million. One of them is a reallocation option where we're requesting the use of $500,000 in revenue generated annually from educator certification fees to be used to create a sustainable operation of the educator certification system. It'll help us from using our own funds for this since we're already generating revenue there. So we're hoping that one will go through. And some of the expansion options we're looking at is $850,000 for the Center for Connecticut Education Research Collaborative. I will spare you the details. They're all in here. If you'd like more information, please let me know, but we can go through them. Let me know. We have another $750,000 for a kindergarten summer family reading program, $4.5 million for regional external literacy coaches, $5.5 million for school-based behavioral health funds, $2.5 million for a school nutrition fund, and $3.1 million for Connecticut Teacher Registered Apprenticeship Program. We don't know where these are going to land. The commissioner has been in conversation with OPM, and they basically said we've already reached our spending cap with the technical adjustments, so that doesn't leave a lot of room for budget options, but we're optimistic that they will see value in our requests. But all of the other agencies are also asking for requests. So we're going to hope for the best. I'm working regularly with OPM. They've already asked a lot of questions about our technical adjustments and have started asking questions on our budget options. So we're going to give them what they need and hopefully they'll understand why these are so important for us. Does anybody have any questions about the specific options?
Any questions?
Good luck.
Hopefully we'll come back with good news.
All in favor, approve the fiscal year 26-27 budget options and direct.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion for item 10, the consent agenda.
So moved.
Nothing needs to be removed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Yes, yes.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Can you unplug
Thank
me?
you very much. I know it's been
Yeah.
a hard couple of weeks. There's a lot of things to read, but thank you very much.
In stream.